The year was 2671. Humanity had grown bold among the stars. Cities floated above clouds. Colonies bloomed on Mars. And trade ships moved between planets like busy bees traveling between flowers. It was an age of calm brilliance. War was history. Hunger was memory. And Earth glowed bright under the light of progress. But peace never lasts forever. It began on a quiet morning over the Pacific Ocean. Astronomers at the Lunar Observatory detected something strange, a shimmer, like ripples in space itself. At first, they thought it was some cosmic lensing effect, maybe an asteroid with a reflective surface. But within minutes, those ripples became solid. 6 massive shapes appeared in orbit, each one the size of a small moon. These were not human ships. No one knew what to do. The satellites that scanned them returned confused readings. The surfaces were smooth, mirror-like, swallowing radar and light. No communication signals, no recognizable codes. Just silent giants hovering above the blue curve of Earth. Within the hour, governments around the world went on alert. The United Earth Coalition old military networks came alive again after decades of sleep. Generals spoke in whispered tones. Presidents and prime ministers appeared calm on broadcasts. But behind locked doors, fear filled the air like smoke. The last time humans saw this kind of coordination was during the first Mars disaster. But this time, no one could point to an enemy they understood. For 3 days, the ships did nothing. They didn't move, didn't attack, didn't even send a signal. Everyone waited. News stations filled every screen. People hardly slept. Children tried to joke about galactic tourists, but the smiles didn't reach their eyes. Farmers stopped tending their fields. Space miners refused to return to orbit. Humanity stared at the sky like prey frozen before a hunter. Then, on the morning of the 4th day, every device on Earth, every screen, radio, comlink, even old analog systems that hadn't been touched in years, came to life. A voice spoke, smooth, deep, and strangely calm. It didn't speak in any human language, yet everyone understood it perfectly, as if it touched the mind directly. Humanity, you have reached beyond your place. You have touched the stars without leave. By decree of the Galactic Council, your world is now subject to tribute. Lay down your claim to independence and offer your resources to the Council, that you may be sheltered under our law. 1 solar cycle is granted for compliance. Then the voice ended, and silence, terrible, endless silence, followed. At first, the world thought it was a prank, some new form of mass hack or psychological weapon. But an hour later, the calm ended again, this time with horror. The lunar colonies went dark. The great domed city of Selene, home to nearly 500,000 people, vanished from all sensors. One moment, it stood under the moon's pale light. The next, it was gone. No explosion, no debris, just absence. The same happened to Tycho Base, then to the mining outposts on Europa. Entire habitats, erased as if they had never existed. The feed from a security drone captured only a flash of blue light before it too disintegrated. Panic spread across Earth faster than any virus. The Council's demand didn't need to be explained. It had been demonstrated. Humanity had 1 year to bow, or it would be wiped from the galaxy like chalk from a board. The leaders of Earth convened under the old United Nations dome in Geneva. The hall, once a symbol of peace, now felt like a bunker before a storm. Representing every colony, General Aria Kane stood before the delegates. Her uniform was old-fashioned, but her voice was firm. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "we are not the first to face them. There are hundreds of planets under their rule. We've read their data archives from drone intercepts. They demand tribute from every species they control, resources, tech, and servitude. This is not protection. It is conquest wearing polite face." One delegate asked in a trembling voice, "Can we fight them?" They erased the moon colonies like vapor. Aria looked at the glowing image of the 6 alien ships floating above Earth. She spoke slowly. "We may not win by force, but surrender is not survival. It's extinction by another name. If we give them one tribute, they'll take the next, and soon we'll have nothing left. No will, no freedom, no humanity." Outside, The citizens of Earth watched the alien vessels move for the first time. Their motion was smooth and graceful, like shadows gliding through light. A beam of white energy extended from one ship, stretching through the upper atmosphere. It didn't strike yet, but every human watching knew what it meant. The alien voice returned, this time sounding colder, closer. We sense resistance. Obedience ensures preservation. Defiance ensures elimination. Every human heart seemed to pause. For a brief moment, even the wind on Earth felt still. But then came something unexpected. An old cargo engineer named Felix Ree, working in a supply tower in Singapore, heard the voice and muttered to his co-workers, "They want tribute? Let them come take it." Someone nearby filmed him, laughing nervously, and posted it. That clip spread everywhere. Within a day, it became a war cry. On Mars, miners carved the words, "Let them come," into a canyon wall with laser drills. On Earth, graffiti spread across cities with the same phrase. For the first time, in the face of overwhelming fear, humanity found unity. And above it all, the alien fleet waited, patient, silent, watching. General Arias stood before the World Council again. "They believe we'll kneel," she said. "They've seen 1,000 worlds that did. But they don't understand what we are. The cost of freedom is burned into our history. We survived our own wars, our own darkness, and we built light out of it. They'll learn what that means." Her words spread across networks, echoing through screens around the planet. The people didn't cheer. They simply nodded, their fear giving way to hard, determined silence. That night, as the alien ships hovered in orbit like silent gods, lights began to glow across Earth's surface. Not from panic, but from purpose. Factories reopened. Outdated defense systems were reactivated. Engineers pulled forgotten designs from dusty archives. Humanity had been given 1 year to surrender. They would spend that year preparing. And somewhere deep in a silent bunker beneath the mountains of old Europe, engineers whispered the name of a secret human project. Something long hidden because the world no longer needed weapons. Project Hades. Far beyond the solar system, in a part of the galaxy humans had never seen, a colossal space station hung among the stars. It was older than many civilizations, carved from the iron heart of an asteroid the size of a continent. This was a Galactic Council hall, the seat of power for 1,000 species. Inside, lights shimmered across marble floors that weren't really marble, but crystallized starlight. Dozens of alien delegates floated or stood on their platforms, each representing a different world. Some resembled elegant machines. Others looked like living storms, their bodies pulsing with color. At the center, on a raised throne surrounded by living gold, sat High Speaker Xyler, the voice of the council. Holograms flickered before them, images of Earth, human cities, and the 6 great ships orbiting the blue world. Xyler's green eyes glowed as he studied the recordings of fleeing humans, collapsing colonies, and the message that had been sent to them. "They understand the warning," he said coldly, "but they have not yet replied." From the shadows rose another figure, a tall, skeletal being with skin like molten glass. This was Admiral Vex, commander of the fleet assigned to watch over the Sol system. His voice was soft, hiss-like. "They are primitives. They need time to learn obedience." The hall murmured in agreement. Orders were made. Predictions were calculated. One delegate, a reptilian scholar with scales like silver coins, questioned softly, "And if they do not obey?" Xyler didn't answer with words. He raised one hand, and a new hologram appeared. It showed Earth surrounded by ashes. That was the decree. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity's 1-year countdown had begun. Yet something unexpected was happening. Instead of fear breaking them apart, defiance was bringing them together. Over old nation borders, new alliances formed. The world worked like a single, stubborn heartbeat. Factories that once built hover cars now forged armored drones. Research stations beneath Antarctica tested new energy weapons. Even small spaceports in colonies like Ceres and Europa swore loyalty to one unified cause, Earth. At the center of this movement stood General Ariakane, now given full command of planetary defense. She was no politician. She was a soldier who believed in humanities would arise from nothing. She stood alone in her command chamber, holographic projections hovering before her. The alien fleet, the Council's insignia, and maps of planetary defenses. Engineers and strategists filled the room, speaking in rapid bursts. But Aria's mind was far away, back to Moon cities, to the people they'd lost. A voice broke her silence. "General," said Captain Ree, Felix's brother, now a flight squadron leader, "the Council has finally spoken again." Aria turned, put it through. The sound filled the command chamber. It wasn't a message this time. It was a show. A massive hologram appeared in Earth's sky, visible from every continent. People stopped in streets, heads tilted to the heavens as the image of High Speaker Xyler materialized above the clouds. His glowing eyes swept across the planet, as if he could see every human soul below. "People of Earth," he said, his voice echoing through the very air, "you stand upon stolen ground. The stars you touch are not yours to claim. You owe the Council tribute, your medals, your ships, your labor. In return, you may live under our watchful eyes." Murmurs of anger spread through cities worldwide, but Xyler's tone only grew colder. "Defiance is not strength. It is ignorance. The Council has no need for another rebellion. You have one final chance. Submit your leaders to our fleet and kneel in recognition of our rule. Disobey, and your world will join the dust of countless others who thought themselves brave." When the image vanished, silence reigned. Billions watched, waiting for what humanity would do next. General Aria looked out over the world map, floating before her. Bright, dots marked human bases, colonies, and fleets, all fragile, all waiting for a choice. Then she whispered, "They want a reply? Fine." She called upon the broadcasting system that reached every corner of Earth. Billions of faces turned toward their devices. The world froze as her image appeared. Simple, unadorned, just a human in a dark uniform, standing firm. "This goes to the Galactic Council," she said softly. "We have seen your power. We have seen what you do to those who kneel. You call it tribute. We call it slavery. You call it law. We call it tyranny. And to that, humanity says this." She leaned forward, eyes sharp, voice ironclad. "We do not kneel." A global roar answered her. On Mars, miners cheered inside oxygen domes. On orbital stations, pilots pounded on their controls. On Earth's surface, people shouted through tears, the words echoing from one edge of the world to the other. The Council received that message an hour later, and the chamber that once laughed at humanity now fell silent. Admiral Vex turned toward the High Speaker. "Shall I erase them, my lord?" Xyler's lips curled into something that might have been amusement or rage. "Not yet," he whispered. "Let the lesser worlds see what happens to those who mock the Council. Make an example of them. Send the fleet." He leaned back on his golden throne. "But ensure they suffer before they perish. Let their systems fail. Let their people watch their sky fall, piece by piece." Vex bowed slowly, his molten skin gleaming like fire. "As you command." And so, the decree was sealed. The Council's order spread across the stars like a storm call. In the void between galaxies, the Vanguard fleet began to move. Hundreds of ships aligned, each glowing with energy from captured suns. Behind them drifted a colossal vessel, miles long and pulsing with light. The sovereign of stars, the pride of the Council's armada. Where it flew, silence followed. Back on Earth, the stars dimmed one by one as humanity's sensors detected the incoming fleet. General Aria watched the readings on her screen. Her reflection looked calm, though her heart thundered in her chest. "They're coming!" a young lieutenant whispered behind her. Aria nodded. "Good," she said. "Let's welcome them properly." As she spoke, the first phase of Project Hades activated deep under the Earth's crust. Far below the surface, huge machines hummed to life for the first time in a century. In the distance, a young child on a rooftop pointed at the sky, watching faint specks of light grow brighter, larger. His mother pulled him close, whispering softly, "Don't look. It's starting." The Council believed humanity's end had begun. But in truth, the age of humanity's fury had just been born. The fleet arrived like the night sky itself was falling. Thousands of alien ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. Shadowed steel creatures that stretched for miles, moving with silent, chilling grace. The lead vessel, the Sovereign of Stars, cast a shadow over Pluto as it passed, its engines glowing deep crimson, like the heart of a dying sun. Earth's telescopes picked them up first. Every screen on the planet showed the same image, a wall of ships advancing. People said it looked like a storm of blades. In Geneva, General Aria Kane watched the live sensor feeds, her eyes steady, unblinking. Around her, the command center was alive with voices. Every message, every radar ping, every distant transmission came to her first. "The fleet has crossed Neptune's orbit," said Lieutenant Jien. "Their formation is tight. No transmissions, no signs of communication." Arya nodded. "They're not here to talk." Within minutes, a new signal pulsed from the Sovereign of Stars. A calm male voice echoed through every human network. "This is the will of the Galactic Council. World 388A, designate Earth. You have refused tribute. You will now face correction." The message ended, and the invasion began. At first, the Council's warships didn't attack. They released swarms of small drones, millions of them, like glittering dust spreading through the void. Each drone was armed with scanning beams that mapped every inch of Earth's defenses, every satellite, every frequency. They expected panic. They expected chaos. Instead, the humans jammed them. Old satellites from the 21st century, long abandoned and forgotten, suddenly came to life. Military AI buried deep in their cores reactivated. They sent false signals, ghost frequencies, and corrupted data back to the fleet. Within moments, the alien drones began colliding, confused by illusions and shadows. It was Earth's first counterstrike, small, clever, unexpected. On Mars, the colonists who had sworn to stand with Earth powered up their defense network. They created a field of charged plasma around their orbiters, frying any scout drone that got too close. Miners on the Ceres belt turned their excavation lasers into weapons. Even the small asteroid bases sent coded messages to Earth. Hold the line. For the first time, humanity wasn't hiding. They were fighting back. General Aria stood before the holographic map of the solar system, the battle lights flickering across her face. "How's Project Hades?" she asked. An engineer turned toward her, sweat on his brow. "Phase 1 complete. The orbital cannons are live, but we only get one shot before they need to cool down." "One shot will be enough," Aria said quietly. Outside Earth's atmosphere, 3 enormous platforms began to move. They were dark, invisible to most scans, floating like broken pieces of night. These were the Hades cannons, built decades ago in secret, a last defense for a war humanity had always prayed would never come. The Council fleet didn't see them until it was too late. When the first alien battleship crossed Mars' orbit, the Hades cannons fired. 3 lances of white-blue energy tore through the darkness. The beam struck the alien vessel dead center. For a second, the ship's shields flared bright gold and then shattered. The explosion was silent in the vacuum of space, but brilliant beyond words, lighting up the black with a sunburst that lingered for minutes. Every human on Earth saw it through their skies. For the first time since the arrival, they cheered. The Council, however, did not cheer. Inside the Sovereign of Stars, Admiral Vex stood motionless, his molten skin glowing brighter with fury. "Primitive weapons," he hissed, "yet they pierced our shields." A voice from behind him replied, "They adapt too quickly." Vex's gaze hardened. "Then burn them before they adapt again." He raised one clawed hand and issued the command. All fleets, full firepower. Earth sensors screamed. Within seconds, hundreds of plasma lances rained toward the blue planet. In Geneva, Aria gave the order, "Activate the shield net." Thousands of energy nodes on satellites turned toward Earth, creating overlapping dome-shaped barriers. The first wave of alien fire slammed into them, sending shock waves through the upper atmosphere. Blue lightning danced across the sky. Power grids flickered. Cities across the planet went dark, then bright, then dark again, but they held. The shield held. Down below, humans watched the heavens shimmer with strange colors. For some, the lights looked like ribbons of green and gold. Beautiful, eerie, dangerous. Children pointed to the sky, while their parents whispered prayers. On every continent, soldiers stood ready at launch sites. Humanity's fear had turned into something else. Determination. Then came humanity's next move. The signal was brief, but it carried everywhere, from the Pacific Command Dome to Mars orbit. All fleets returned fire. From deep oceans and distant moons, hidden ships rose. Old war cruisers from the Orbital Preservation Program, civilian haulers retrofitted with cannons, even mining rigs carrying railguns, they all joined the fight. The alien fleet expected primitive, scattered resistance. What they faced instead was a storm. In Earth's orbit, hundreds of missiles burst into metal shards that disrupted targeting systems. Stealth crafts cloaked in electromagnetic fog darted close enough to strike before vanishing back into debris clouds. The aliens struck harder, but the humans were unpredictable, stubborn, relentless. It wasn't just technology that confused the Council. It was spirit. The aliens fought with efficiency. The humans fought with desperation. And desperation created brilliance. Hours passed. Space glowed with weapon trails and broken ships. The Council fleet was larger, stronger, and older, but humanity's tactics were chaotic, alive. When the second wave reached mid-Earth orbit, the humans lured them toward the Hades grid again. This time, it wasn't energy beams, but thousands of microdrones carrying EMP charges. A burst of light, then darkness. Alien shields flickered, collapsed, and then the second Hades cannon fired. The Vanguard cruiser, proud ship of the Council's vanguard, vanished in a sphere of fire. Admiral Vex stared at the burning wreckage from his bridge. "Impossible," he whispered. "They were supposed to be fractured, divided." A communications officer looked up from its glowing console. "They're not divided, Admiral. They're united." Vex turned back toward the image of that small blue world glowing in the dark. "Then we will divide them by force." Back on Earth, Arya stood over the holomap, watching one red marker after another blink out. She knew the war wasn't won, but for the first time, it didn't look unwinnable either. Lieutenant Jen approached. "General, that blast billion saw it. They're calling it the Dawn Fire. They're saying humanity just lit its first star in defense." Arya allowed herself the faintest of smiles. "Good. Let them see it. Let them remember." She turned toward the window, watching the auroras ripple from the bombardment above. "This is not just survival," she whispered. "This is a message." Far above, in the black between worlds, the burning fragment of alien ships drifted quietly past the shining Earth. For the first time in history, humanity wasn't just defending its home. Humanity was fighting for the galaxy to know its name. The war for Earth dragged on. Days turned into weeks. The solar system had become a battlefield of smoke, fire, and shattered metal. Dead satellites glowed faintly like broken lanterns. The wreckage of alien and human ships drifted side by side, silent witnesses to the storm that raged among the stars. But against all odds, Earth still stood. The Council's first assault had failed. Their drones and scouts had been destroyed. Their fleets pushed back from orbit. No one in the galaxy had ever seen a world resist this long. And across every system watching the Council's broadcasts, whispers began to spread. The humans are still alive. They fought the Council and survived. For the first time in centuries, the mighty galactic order began to tremble. Not from weapons, but from an idea. In the dim command room beneath Geneva, General Arya Kane studied a wall of floating screens. Each showed a different battlefield. Mars Defense Base still holding, Europa Colony reinforcing, the Pacific Orbital Station still transmitting. "Status report," she demanded. Captain Ree read from his screen. "We've lost 2 outposts near the asteroid belt, but the fleet survived the pushback. Hades cannons need a day to recharge." Arya nodded. "One day we can afford. The next wave will come stronger." Her second-in-command frowned. "Do you think they'll try again so soon?" "They have to," Arya said simply. "They can't afford to look weak. If the Council shows mercy to us, every world under their control will start asking dangerous questions." She walked to the digital map of Allied communications, the chart of secret messages from alien systems that had somehow made contact after the first battle. Some were small resistance groups, others old colonies that still remembered freedom. They were all watching, waiting. "They're scared," Arya murmured, "but they're listening." Far away, in the Galactic Hall of Worlds, chaos spread to the council chambers. What had once been a place of quiet rule now hummed with anger. Voices echoed through the air, translated into a dozen languages at once. "This is a disgrace," shouted one delegate, a creature with wings of liquid light. "A single world defies the council? They embarrass us before 1,000 systems," another cried. "This cannot stand." At the center, High Speaker Xyler sat on his throne, silent but seething. Admiral Vex stood beside him, burns glowing faintly across his molten skin from the near-fatal destruction of his fleet. "I warned you," Xyler said slowly, his voice like crushed metal. "They are not to be treated as lesser beings. Their defiance spreads like disease. Worlds under our tribute are already hesitating to pay." Vex bowed slightly. "Then give me leave, High Speaker. Let me burn their world to dust. No survivors. No legacy." Xyler's eyes glimmered. "No, not yet." He turned toward the holoscreens showing the galaxy. "If we destroy them now, they become martyrs. Their story will outlive them. We will make them watch as everything they build crumbles. We will break their faith before we break their bones." Vex's molten jaw clenched. He obeyed, though every fiber of his being burned with hatred. "As you command." Back on Earth, humanity barely had time to breathe. Every hour, engineers worked to repair what the last battle had broken. Power grids flickered back to life. Shipyards floated above Earth, like rings of sparks. In old tunnels beneath the surface, scientists worked under blinding lights. Project Hades was only one weapon. Hidden deeper was something else, something almost ready. It was small, experimental, dangerous. They called it Project Prometheus, a weapon that could create miniature stars, brief bursts of controlled plasma that could tear through any known shield. But the energy requirements were immense. Arya approved it anyway. "We're out of easy options," she said. "If Prometheus works, it will even the field." As Earth prepared, the alien fleet gathered again at the edge of the system. This time they brought reinforcement from 3 other sectors. The galaxy would witness a second assault, a final lesson, as the council called it. When the alien ships returned, they didn't waste words. They attacked instantly. A wall of plasma and missiles tore through the dark, leaving long trails of light. Earth answered in kind. The remaining Hades cannon fired straight through the middle of the formation, taking 2 ships with it. It wasn't enough. For every one that fell, 3 more took its place. Arya watched the red lights flash across her board. "We can't hold orbit. Have ground defense ready." "They're dropping landing craft?" Lieutenant Jien asked in disbelief. "Yes," Arya replied grimly. "They mean to take Earth itself." The clouds above the eastern hemisphere began to burn. Deep within the atmosphere, massive dropships broke through, shining like meteors. They crashed into oceans, into deserts, into cities, carrying alien soldiers clad in living armor. Human forces met them in the streets. Every building became a bunker, every city's square fortress. It was no longer just war for a planet. It was a war for humanity's soul. Across alien-occupied sectors, the broadcast of the Earth War could not be censored fast enough. Small rebel cells hacked into the Council's communication grids, replaying the human phrase that had become legend. "We do not kneel." Those 4 words began to ignite worlds. On planets far beyond human reach, slaves began refusing work. On trading routes, tribute shipments vanished. On mining moons, workers sabotaged council machinery. Whispers became actions. Fear became courage. Humanity's defiance had spread like fire in dry grass. In the sky over Earth's night side, the greatest battle yet unfolded. Human and alien ships clashed in patterns of light like tangled constellations. The planet's magnetosphere lit up in streaks of violet and green, turning the darkness into colors not seen before. In one breathtaking moment, Project Prometheus came online. Arya stood in the underground command bunker as the countdown began. Prometheus core stable, the commander reported. Ready for detonation in 3, 2, 1. A bloom of white light burst across the dark horizon. A small, contained star tore open in the void, swallowing the leading enemy cruisers in a sun-bright flare. The blast was beautiful. It lasted only seconds, but when it faded, 30 alien ships were gone. Every human on the ground saw that second sun rise and fall, and in that moment, they understood something. They could win. Admiral Vex saw it too, the blaze reflected in his molten eyes. "They've learned to forge light," he whispered bitterly. "They're not fighting like primitives anymore." High Speaker Zyler's voice reached him over the comms, venomous and low. "Then it is time to end this. Prepare the Sovereign. If they wish to be stars so badly, we will turn their planet into one." Vex turned his ship toward Earth, weapons charging like the breath of a dragon. He didn't know that the human phrase spoken across 1,000 worlds had already doomed the Council. Because when one species refuses to kneel, 1,000 others remember how to stand. The war had become a storm that refused to end. Skies above Earth burned every night, flashes from distant battles reflecting off oceans and cities like broken lightning. The stars themselves seemed dimmer, hidden behind drifting ruins of warships. But Earth still spun. Humanity still fought. The Galactic Council had thrown almost everything at them. Whole fleets darkened the solar system now, their ships shaped like jagged crescents and spear points. Space between Jupiter and Earth glittered with debris, shattered hulls, silent drones, fragments of human and alien vessels tumbling together through the void. This was no longer a simple rebellion. It was survival, fought inch by inch, breath by breath. General Arya Kane stood in the command vault beneath Geneva, hands clasped behind her back, eyes locked on a wall of holographic battle maps. Red and blue lines wove through black grids, ships, fleets, defense patterns. Captain re-entered beside her, his uniform streaked with soot. "We've lost the Europa line," he reported quietly. Their reinforcements hit harder than expected. Arya didn't look away from the map. Casualties? He hesitated. Too many. A brief silence filled the room, broken only by the hum of distant power generators. Arya finally turned, her voice calm but like steel. "And yet, we're still standing. Tell the engineers to bring Hades Cannons 3 and 4 back online. We hold position wherever we can." Ree frowned. "We can't keep this up forever. They have entire armadas waiting beyond Saturn. One mistake, one break in our chain, and—" She cut him off. "Then we won't make one." Above them, space burned. Human and alien ships danced across the black, their trails painting webs of light across the stars. Every fight was short, brutal, and desperate. Human ingenuity had become their greatest weapon. Small attack groups used decoys made from asteroid fragments, confusing the enemy's sensors. Old cargo haulers were turned into mobile gun platforms. Even decommissioned passenger liners were strapped with explosives, flown by volunteers who refused to run. The aliens fought with precision. Humans fought with madness. Yet, somehow, madness was working. Admiral Vex watched the growing chaos from the bridge of the Sovereign of Stars. His molten skin pulsed in frustration. "Why do they not break?" he hissed. "Every world we've conquered surrendered within days. These creatures simply refuse to die." A subordinate answered cautiously. "They fight with no logic, Admiral. Their tactics make no sense to our models." "Exactly," Vex muttered darkly. "They fight like storms, unpredictable, violent, and wild." His eyes narrowed on the planet below. "We will smother that fire soon enough." But even as the war raged, change was spreading. All across the galaxy, species under Council rule were watching. The humans had become living legends, the first defiant race. Smuggled holograms of Earth's battles traveled through hidden channels, igniting hope on worlds long silent. On the ice world of Thoria, miners dropped their Council tools and raised weapons fashioned from scrap. On the jungle moon of Draxel, workers refused shipments. On the trading hubs of Vantar Prime, people saluted when human transmissions reached their ports. The Council's empire, once built on control, was now shaking apart one frightened world at a time. And in the midst of it all, humanity kept fighting. One evening, Arya met privately with her closest commanders in an underground briefing room. Dust trembled on the ceiling from distant impacts. A holographic table lit up before them, showing a spinning image of the solar system, glowing red from the sheer number of war markers. An older scientist, Dr. Nadir Owens, rested his trembling hand on the edge of the table. "General, we can't keep trading damage," he said. "Eventually, we'll run out of material. They'll rebuild faster than we can." "I know," Arya said quietly. Owens took a breath and straightened. "Then we use Prometheus again, but not the same way. The energy cores could overload if detonated close to the fleet's command ship. It won't just create a star, it will create a chain reaction through their power grid." Reese stared at him in disbelief. "You're talking about detonating a miniature sun inside their fleet." Owens nodded. "It's our best chance to cripple them permanently." Arya folded her arms, eyes fixed on the hologram of the Sovereign of Stars. "Do it. Pick your best team and get it done. The rest of us will buy you the time." 2 days later, the plan began. Human strike teams launched from dark space stations hidden behind asteroids. They flew in silence, cloaked in cold, carrying the glowing Prometheus cores in armor containers. Below, the battle for Earth still raged. Aliens dropped orbital weapons. Humans fired rockets from mountain strongholds. The planet's atmosphere glowed every night like a storm of auroras, terrible and beautiful. When the strike team slipped through the alien fleet, they transmitted one short message: "For all the worlds that kneel, for all the ones that won't." Then they vanished into the black. On the Sovereign of Stars, Admiral Vex sensed something wrong. "Report. I detect anomalies near our power net." "Small ships, barely traceable," his officer answered. "They're human." Vex's molten eyes blazed. "Destroy them." But it was already too late. The strike team ships detonated silently, releasing Prometheus cores in a synchronized burst. A ring of white light tore across the core of the fleet. Shields flickered. Power grids collapsed. Energy lines overloaded one after another. The Sovereign shuddered as its great engines faltered. One by one, the Council ships went dark, their brilliance snuffed out as if the stars themselves were rebelling. Admiral Vex clawed at his controls. "No, no!" His voice vanished amid static. The last thing he saw through the observation screen was the blue glow of Earth, still burning, still alive. Human cheers echoed across the world when the fleet began to fall. From orbit to ground, people screamed and wept as streaks of light rained to the night sky, burning alien ships breaking apart in the atmosphere like dying meteors. The galaxies watching couldn't believe it. The invincible fleet of the Council had been broken by a single world. Inside the command bunker, Arya stood silently, watching the radar screen slowly clear. Around her, her team clapped, cried, laughed, hugged. She said nothing for a while, just stared at the empty sky. Then, softly, she said, "We've proven it. We can fight gods." Ree smiled wearily beside her. "And win." But Arya shook her head. "Not yet. They'll come again. The Council doesn't accept defeat." Still, for one long moment, all around the world, humanity allowed itself to breathe. For the first time, they weren't just defending Earth. They were shaping destiny. And far across the void, beyond shattered fleets and fading fire, small signals began to ripple out, encrypted, whisper across countless stars. The humans endure. The Empire wavers. Hope has returned. It was no longer just Earth's war. Now, it was a war of resolve, and the entire galaxy was beginning to choose sides. The war should have ended with the fall of the Council's fleet. But the galaxy had grown used to power, and power does not surrender quietly. From the ruins of their shattered armadas, the surviving Council commanders retreated into deep space, carrying their pride and fury like wounded beasts. The galaxy was trembling. Trade routes collapsed, loyal worlds turned silent, and planets once obedient began to rise. Everywhere, old banners burned. And at the center of it all, Earth, scarred, battered, and half-broken, still spun under its pale sun. General Arya Kane stood on the balcony of what remained of the United Earth Command Dome. The sky was gray, scattered with drifting sparks from the debris of the last great battle. The air smelled of ozone and metal dust. Below her, rebuilding had begun. Machine convoys rumbled through shattered streets. Children chalked strange drawings on walls made from fallen ships. Humanity wasn't celebrating. Not yet, but they were moving forward. Captain Reese stepped beside her. His uniform was torn, his voice soft. "Messages keep coming from other systems," he said. "Not human ones. The Drow, the Thyrics, even the Centauri. All say the same thing. We rise next." Arya looked toward the horizon. "Then it's begun." He nodded. "The galaxy's burning, ma'am. But this time, it's not us on our knees." A faint smile crossed her lips. "Good." Far away in deep space, aboard a drifting wreck of the Sovereign of Stars, Admiral Vex still lived. His molten body had cooled. His skin was cracked like cooling glass, but the fury had not died. In the darkness, he whispered to himself, they broke the old order. He looked out at the smoldering stars and clenched a trembling hand. If gods cannot command the galaxy, then monsters will. And with that vow, he set his crippled ship toward the remains of the Council's hidden worlds, determined to rebuild the Council's vengeance. The fire of tyranny wasn't dead yet. It merely waited for breath. But that was for later. For now, every world free from Council rule looked to Earth. Humanity had become a symbol, broadcast spread across 100 systems, replaying one phrase that would not die. "We do not kneel." Those 4 words became the anthem of the new age. On once subjugated planets, slaves who had never dared to look their masters in the eyes now stood tall. They wore the symbol of a human star carved into their tools, a silent promise of rebellion. On distant moons, people built small altars from bits of scrap metal, setting them under clear domes facing the stars. Their candles or plasma lights burned for human soldiers they had never met, who had fought in the name of every world that had forgotten how to fight. Even Arya didn't know how far their message had spread. Weeks passed. Earth's skies cleared of warfire. The broken fleets that once circled the planet had been pulled down and repurposed into orbital docks. From their pieces, something new was being built, a united defense network not just for humans, but for any free species. They called it the Alliance of Independent Worlds. Ships from strange races began to approach Earth carefully, bearing banners of truce. In their languages, one message repeated, "You stood when no one else would. Let us stand with you." Meeting after meeting took place. Negotiations, promises, plans, all guided by one truth. Never again would one voice rule all others. Arya attended every meeting, though she never stopped calling herself a soldier instead of a politician. When colonies asked if humanity would lead the new alliance, she shook her head and said, "No one leads. We walk together, or not at all." But peace was not simple. Survivors of the war struggled to rebuild. Some still lived with loss, others with fear. And yet, among the ruins, humanity found something greater than victory. They found purpose. Young cadets trained not to conquer, but to protect. Farmers rebuilt communities with alien neighbors. Scientists who once built weapons now studied ways to restore broken ecosystems. The same hands that had forged weapons of war now sowed seeds of unity. Arya often walked through the new training centers built where battlefields once stood. Recruits would stop to salute her, but she only smiled and said, "Don't salute me. Salute those who stood beside you." She knew that humanity's strength had never come from her or the generals. It had come from the billions who simply refused to break. One evening, years after the first attack, Arya returned to the place where it had all begun, the old lunar field where the first colonies were lost. It was quiet there now, calm and strange. She stood among the holographic memorials rising from the silver dust, names, voices, laughter, fragments of history. An aide approached quietly. "General, the Alliance Council is ready for your address." Arya didn't move for a moment. Then she said, "Let them begin without me. I'm where I need to be." The aide hesitated, then left her alone with the whispers of the past. Arya looked up at Earth, pale and bright against the black. "We did it," she whispered softly. "Not for power, not for gain, just to prove we deserved our place among the stars. Her comlink buzzed, an open channel, broadcasting through Alliance frequencies. She pressed a button and spoke the same words that had echoed through war and history alike. To every free world, stand tall, stand proud, and remember this. No matter how vast the darkness, humanity did not kneel. Her words reached colonies, satellites, distant stations, and hidden outposts spanning galaxies. Every listener fell silent for a heartbeat. And then, voices answered, some in human tongues, others in alien languages, all saying the same message. We do not kneel. The phrase became the voice of an age, the beginning of a united frontier. High above, a new fleet took shape, not for conquest, but for watchfulness. The fleet of Sentinels, humanity's legacy, carried a single emblem, a human hand reaching toward the stars. The galaxy had changed forever. Empires born from arrogance had fallen. New worlds rose in their place. Not because of power, but because one small species on a blue planet proved that freedom was worth any cost. And far below, under starlit skies, a single child looked up at the constellations, whispering his mother's favorite story. The story of when the galaxy demanded tribute, and humanity refused to kneel.